A $2.3 billion nuclear power plant, engineered with a 621 megawatt reactor encased in a meter of solid concrete, sits fully built but has never produced a single watt of electricity. For over 40 years, this giant has slept, its core empty and its turbines silent, all because of 4,000 construction defects and a catastrophic secret hidden beneath its foundations. It was built on an earthquake fault line. This isn't just one bad decision. Around the globe, colossal structures stand as monuments to epic miscalculation. These are the most useless megaprojects in the world, from 20-lane highways with no cars to artificial islands sinking back into the sea. How do projects this massive, costing billions of dollars, go so catastrophically wrong? Our story begins in the Philippines in 1973, a time defined by a global oil crisis. With fuel prices soaring, the nation sought energy independence, and the government, led by Ferdinand Marcos, saw a high-tech solution: nuclear power. The plan was to build a cutting-edge facility that could power a significant portion of the country's main island, Luzon. The engineering behind the Bataan Nuclear Power Plant was, on paper, impressive. At its heart was a 621 megawatt pressurized water reactor, or PWR. The concept is straightforward. Inside the reactor core, nuclear fission splits atoms to generate an incredible amount of heat. This heat boils water, creating high-pressure steam that spins a massive turbine, which in turn drives a generator to produce electricity. To contain this immense power, the reactor was encased in multiple layers of safety. A steel containment vessel over 2.5 centimeters thick was surrounded by a concrete wall a full meter thick. Between these layers was a vacuum space designed to suck in and trap any potential leaks before they could escape. Construction began in 1976, but the project was immediately plagued with problems. The initial budget of around $500 million began to swell uncontrollably, eventually reaching a staggering final cost of over $2.3 billion. For a single reactor, this was an astronomical sum, but the financial issues hid a much deadlier problem. A safety inquiry prompted by the 1979 Three Mile Island accident in the United States uncovered over 4,000 defects in the plant's construction, from faulty welding to substandard cabling and pipes. Even more terrifying was the plant's location. Engineers had built this complex nuclear facility just a few kilometers from Mount Natib, a potentially active volcano, and dangerously close to a major geological fault line. It was a catastrophic error in site selection, a ticking time bomb built into the very foundation of the project. By the time the plant was completed in 1984, the world was changing. In 1986, the Chernobyl disaster sent a wave of fear about nuclear power across the globe. That same year, the Marcos regime was overthrown. The new government, facing a mountain of debt for a plant with thousands of defects sitting on an earthquake fault, decided to mothball it permanently. The Philippines finished paying off the $2.3 billion loan for its non-functional power plant in 2007, more than 30 years after construction began. Today, it sits in a state of preserved decay, costing millions each year to maintain, a silent monument to a multi-billion-dollar miscalculation. Debates about its revival continue, but the fundamental risks of its flawed construction and dangerous location remain. If you were in charge, would you risk turning it on? Or is it a permanent monument to a billion-dollar mistake? Let us know below. But what happens when the fatal flaw isn't a hidden geological flaw, but a massive, empty space hiding in plain sight? In 2005, the government of Myanmar did something extraordinary. In near total secrecy, it began constructing an entirely new capital city, Naypyidaw, in the middle of the country. The scale was almost unimaginable. Covering over 7,000 square kilometers, the new city is roughly 4 times the physical size of London. But this was not a city designed to grow organically. It was engineered from the ground up for a specific purpose, resulting in one of the strangest urban environments on Earth. The most famous, or infamous, feature of Naypyidaw is its road network. Leading to the colossal Parliament building is the Yaza Hatarni Road, a highway that, in its widest sections, boasts 20 lanes, 10 in each direction. Using a standard lane width of 3.6 meters, the paved surface for traffic alone is over 70 meters wide, not including the enormous shoulders and median strips. It is an engineering marvel of asphalt and concrete, so vast and overbuilt that it is rumored to have been designed to allow military aircraft to land on it in case of civil unrest. This obsession with scale extends to the city's layout. Naypyidaw is not a cohesive city, but a collection of strictly segregated zones connected by these massive, empty highways. There is a ministry zone for government buildings, a hotel zone with dozens of luxury hotels, and a residential zone where apartment blocks are distinguished by the color of their roofs: blue for Ministry of Health employees, green for the Ministry of Agriculture. The entire city was engineered exclusively for vehicles. The distances are too vast to walk, and there is virtually no pedestrian infrastructure, making it impossible to get around without a car or taxi. The result of this strange design is an eerie, profound emptiness. Despite being built to house a massive population, official figures estimate only around 1 million people live there, giving it an incredibly low population density of about 130 to 190 people per square kilometer. The 20-lane highways often have no cars on them at all. The grand government buildings stand silent, and the shopping malls and hotels are largely deserted. The cost of this ghost city is a state secret, but estimates place it between 4 and 5 billion US dollars, a monumental drain on the resources of a developing nation. The city's oversized infrastructure has become a massive liability. In March 2025, a major earthquake struck the region, causing over $1 billion in damage to Naypyidaw alone and ripping giant fissures into its famously empty roads. It remains a hollow capital, a testament to what happens when grandiosity is prioritized over practicality. Building a city that no one wants is one thing, but what about building a gateway to the world that was so inconvenient the world decided to fly right over it? In the 1960s, Montreal was the undisputed commercial and cultural capital of Canada. Its airport, Dorval, was booming, and projections showed that it would be completely overwhelmed by the mid-1970s. The government, led by Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, decided to think big. The plan was to build a new, futuristic airport that would not only serve Montreal, but act as the primary gateway for all of North America. This was the vision for the Montreal Mirabel International Airport. The engineering was driven by pure scale. To ensure there would be no limits to future expansion, the government expropriated a staggering 39,660 hectares of land, an area larger than the entire city of Montreal. The master plan was a vision of the future, calling for a complex of 6 runways and 6 passenger terminals, all connected by an automated people mover system. The first phase, featuring 2 massive runways and a single state-of-the-art terminal, was rushed to completion in 1975, just in time for the 1976 Summer Olympics. It was designed to handle up to 50 million passengers a year and was, by land area, the largest airport in the world. However, this grand vision was built on a foundation of critical flaws. The first was its location. Mirabel was constructed 39 kilometers northwest of downtown Montreal, a remote and inconvenient site. A planned high-speed rail link was never built, leaving passengers with a 50-minute to an hour-long bus ride or car ride, compared to just 20 minutes for the old Dorval Airport. This alone made it deeply unpopular. Second, the project was a victim of technological progress. The plans were drawn in an era when transatlantic flights often required a refueling stop. By the time Mirabel opened, new long-range jets like the Boeing 747 could fly directly from Western North America to Europe, completely bypassing Montreal. The city's geographical advantage had vanished. The final, fatal flaw was the government's decision to split air traffic. To force airlines to use the new airport, all international flights were banned from Dorval and moved to Mirabel, while domestic and U.S. flights remained at the old airport. This created a logistical nightmare. Any passenger arriving from Europe with a connecting flight in Canada had to retrieve their luggage and take an hour-long bus ride to the other airport. Faced with this inefficiency, airlines and passengers simply chose to connect through Toronto instead. Mirabel was a spectacular failure. Passenger traffic never came close to its capacity, peaking at under 3 million people per year. By 1997, the government relented and allowed international flights back to the more convenient Dorval Airport. The last passenger flight departed from Mirabel in 2004. The enormous, empty terminal became a movie set and was even used for go-kart racing before it was finally demolished in 2016. Today, the site has found a new life, but not as a passenger hub. It is now YMX International Aerosity of Mirabel, a hub for cargo flights, flight schools, and an assembly plant for Airbus A220 jets. The vast runways built for millions of travelers now serve to test the next generation of aircraft. Mirabel's terminal was demolished because it was empty, but our next project is a place where everything is still standing, frozen in time from the day it shut down less than a year after opening. It was supposed to be Turkey's answer to Disneyland. Billed as the largest theme park in Europe, Wonderland Eurasia, also known as Anka Park, opened in the capital city of Ankara in March 2019 with incredible fanfare. The president himself called it a symbol of pride for the nation. The engineering and investment numbers were staggering. The park sprawled across 1.3 million square meters of land and was packed with an astonishing number of attractions, 17 roller coasters, and over 2,100 smaller rides. To support this, the park featured a fountain that could shoot water 120 meters into the air and a 5-kilometer-long internal rail system. The final construction cost was a subject of debate, but the city's mayor later confirmed it was over $800 million. The goal was to attract 5 million visitors a year and put Ankara on the global tourism map. The dream collapsed almost immediately. Just 2 days after the grand opening ceremony, one of the main roller coasters broke down mid-ride, forcing terrified passengers to climb down to safety. This was not an isolated incident. Visitors who paid for tickets found a park in a state of chaos. Public restrooms were filthy. Many rides were still unfinished, and entire sections of the park remained closed off as active construction sites. It was later revealed that many of the rides had been purchased and installed years earlier, left to sit and deteriorate in the harsh weather without any maintenance before the park even opened. The park was a disaster. Word spread quickly, and the projected crowds never materialized. The operator could not generate enough revenue to pay its massive electricity bills, or even its own staff. In February 2020, less than a year after it opened, Wonderland Eurasia closed its doors for good. Today, it is a dystopian wasteland. The giant, life-size dinosaur statues are decaying, and the 17 roller coasters stand silent and rusting against the sky. The abandoned park became a target for thieves who stole electrical cables and anything else of value. After a legal battle, the city of Ankara regained control of the land, and in a survey, residents overwhelmingly voted to have the failed park demolished and the area returned to green space, erasing the $800 million mistake from the landscape. But what if your billion-dollar dream wasn't just failing, but was slowly sinking back into the sea? In the early 2000s, Dubai was a city defined by boundless ambition. No project seemed too grand, and in 2003, the state-owned developer Naypyidaw unveiled its most audacious plan yet, the World Islands. The vision was to construct an archipelago of around 300 artificial islands, meticulously shaped and arranged to look like a map of the world when viewed from above. These islands were to be sold to the ultra-wealthy for private mansions and exclusive luxury resorts. The engineering required to create land from the sea was monumental. Using massive dredging ships, engineers moved 321 million cubic meters of sand from the floor of the Persian Gulf. To protect this new land from the open sea, they constructed a massive oval breakwater using 386 million tons of rock. The creation of the islands themselves was a work of high-tech precision. Each island, ranging from 1.4 to 4.2 hectares, was shaped using GPS-guided technology to ensure the world map was accurate, with an average of 100 meters of water separating each landmass. The entire development covers an area 9 kilometers long by 6 kilometers wide. However, this man-made world was vulnerable to both economic forces and the forces of nature. The 2008 global financial crisis hit Dubai hard, and the work on the world screeched to a halt. Even though about 60% of the islands had already been sold to investors, all construction stopped. As the years passed with no activity, reports began to surface that the islands were in trouble. Without constant maintenance and reinforcement, the sand was eroding, with some claiming the islands were slowly sinking back into the sea. The narrow channels between them were silting up, blurring the lines of the carefully crafted continents. The project's most critical engineering failure, however, was invisible. In the rush to sell the islands, the developers never built the essential infrastructure to support them. No underwater power cables were ever laid. No pipes for freshwater or sewage systems were installed. To this day, any developer who wants to build on an island must provide their own power with noisy, polluting diesel generators and figure out how to manage their own waste and water supply. This lack of basic utilities made development prohibitively expensive and logistically complex. For more than a decade, the world was a ghost archipelago. Recently, a few isolated resorts, like the Heart of Europe and an Anatara hotel, have opened on a handful of islands, creating small pockets of life. But the vast majority of the nearly 300 islands remain as they were when the dredgers left, empty, undeveloped piles of sand, a fractured and incomplete vision of the world slowly being reclaimed by the sea. Which of these projects do you think was the biggest waste of money? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to see more deep dives into the world's most incredible engineering, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video.